Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Eugene Stefanov. I'm part of the marketing team at Perficient, and I'm very excited that you've joined us for today's webinar, in which we'll discuss the risks and rewards of upgrading to the latest version of Siebel CTMS. Before we move on to a brief overview of Perficient, I'll mention that we are recording today. So in the next day or so, we'll be sure to email you with information on how to access this presentation. Because this is a shorter webinar, we will not be answering questions during the presentation, but you are welcome to submit questions via the chat, and we'll respond via email. All right, a little bit about Perficient. So who are we? We are a consulting firm that delivers digital experience, business optimization, and industry solutions. The work we do helps cultivate and captivate customers, as well as drive efficiency and productivity. We have numerous locations across the US and Europe, as well as offshore facilities in India and China. Couple of stats. We were founded in 1997. We're a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. We have nearly 3,000 employees. And we've formed strategic partnerships with major technology vendors and also have dedicated solution and industry practices. So one of these industry practices is, of course, life sciences. This graphic here shows our depth of experience. You can see that we have relationships with 37 of the world's largest life sciences companies. I won't go into more detail about our experience on this call, but you are welcome to look at this slide more closely when you receive the link to the presentation. All right, now that I've covered the housekeeping items and told you a little bit about Perficient, I'd like to pass it over to today's wonderful speaker, Param Singh.
Thank you, Eugene. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, which is to provide some insight into the latest versions of Oracle's Siebel CTMS and some history of the evolution of the application. And again, since this is a 30-minute webinar, it really is going to just serve as a high-level discussion on the latest version's functionality. Excuse me. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Param Singh, and I'm the director in Perficient Life Science Practice, where I lead the Clinical Operations Solutions and the Connected Health for Life Sciences initiative. I've been with Perficient for over 9 years and have been working in the life science industry my entire career, and have worked with the Oracle Siebel CTMS product since its inception back in 1999, 2000. So I've seen the evolution firsthand that we're going to be discussing today during today's webinar, and hopefully can shed some light on the direction of the product and whether it would be beneficial for your organization to implement or upgrade to these latest versions. So, because Siebel IP 2016 or Innovation Pack 2016 was such a significant departure from previous Siebel versions, our team has devoted much of last year to beta testing it. And now that we've finished that assessment of the risks and rewards of upgrading, we're ready to share them with you. So here's a look at today's agenda. First, because some folks on the call may not be familiar with Siebel CTMS, we wanted to give an overview of Oracle's Siebel CTMS system and its place in the market and its impact on our industry. I'll then go into a brief history of Siebel CTMS and its evolution as one of the leading CTMS solutions in the world, and go into some features and functionality that have been introduced over time in the product. And then next, we'll start to highlight some of the features and functionality that were provided in last year's release of IP 2016, which is now starting to get active use across companies. First, we'll discuss some platform-wide updates in IP 2016 that address usability and overall the development approach across the platform. And then we'll go into some specific CTMS features that have been introduced to address key requirements from a clinical operations standpoint. Next, since IP 2017 is set to be released this year, we're going to offer a sneak peek of some of the features and functionality that have been communicated to be released with that next version, and with what is planned for that release with regards to development and deployment approaches for implementation. We're looking at a potential approach to compliance and how this new quick deployment capabilities can potentially lower the compliance risk, and in turn, the validation overhead for an implementation. And then finally, we'll look at what the next steps will be for your organization, depending on where you are in your journey in either identifying your needs for an enterprise clinical trial management system like Siebel CTMS, or performing an upgrade analysis for your existing Siebel CTMS application to take advantage of the features that we're going to be discussing today. And then we'll end today's call with a listing of some additional resources on the topic of implementing or upgrading your CTMS solution along with some other related topics. Okay, so with that, let's get started. So why Oracle CTMS? So why has Oracle Siebel CTMS enjoyed a leadership position in the industry for many years? There are thousands of seats of Siebel CTMS that are deployed worldwide that support many global trials. The functionality that this solution has been the standard to measure other clinical trial management systems. And one of the main reasons it has been so successful, establishing its position as a leader, is its enterprise application and integration architecture. Since organizations in our industry grow quickly, both organically as well as through acquisitions, companies that are looking for applications that not only meet the clinical operation needs of today, but then can scale and grow as the organization and its needs grow. So this solution can be easily implemented for large organizations, but it can also be deployed in smaller, mid-sized organizations to give them the same benefits without the risk of needing a different system as the organization grows. And this is why it's been adopted not only by top pharma, medical device, and CRO organizations, but in recent years with the advent of accelerators for Siebel CTMS, this has been widely adopted by small and mid-sized companies as well. The system is rich in features that you would expect from an enterprise CTMS to support global studies. It comes with an integrated, centralized investigator database to manage investigator relationships, real-time subject enrollment tracking, full planning, tracing, and completion of site visits and visit reports, and a very robust investigator payment generation module. And having a centralized enterprise CTMS provides users with relevant and timely information, delivers trial information to CRAs, managers, and executives, and helps facilitate communications across study teams. So you can see some of the key benefits that clients have achieved in using the system, which continues to keep it as one of the leaders in the industry. So a brief history, so the Siebel application, the Siebel CTMS application, was built on Siebel CRM. So the CTMS, when it was built, already had the framework and foundation of a robust investigator database functionality to help manage the critical relationship with the investigators and the sites. And then obtaining requirements from key industry thought leaders, the clinical modules such as protocol builder, trip reports, investigator payments, site contracts, and document tracking were added to complete out a robust CTMS solution. And so while it was the leader in terms of functionality, one of the main critiques of the system was its browser dependence on Microsoft Internet Explorer. The web-based system had an innovative high interactivity mode, which allowed many interactive capabilities that were not available on other web-based systems at the time, but those features relied on ActiveX controls to work. And ActiveX now was recently desupported by Microsoft. So in 2012, Oracle's response to that was the release of OpenUI, which was a platform-wide change to the Siebel product. And the application became both browser agnostic, but then also retained some of that high interactivity like features that users were so accustomed to. So the move to OpenUI enabled several platform-wide enhancements. The biggest and more widely acclaimed of them was, of course, that browser independence. The ability to support all major browsers was a huge step in the right direction. And then along with that, OpenUI now had multi-device support across tablets and smartphones and similar devices. And now that tablets and smartphones outnumber traditional laptops and desktops, this was definitely a needed evolution. So Oracle even added with OpenUI the ability to render applications differently depending on which device is accessing the application, just as many websites do today. So Oracle also focused on enhancing usability features that in previous versions have been a bit cumbersome. And added features like drag and drop attachments. They simplified the search capability to make it more like a Google type of search across the application. And then a major shift that started with this release was the approach to development itself. Oracle started to move away from traditional development, which was solely Siebel tools driven, and started to push some aspects of development to the application administration layer. So this also allowed development to extend to the use of JavaScript and then open source controls being able to be incorporated in the Siebel application. So if you're using some standard JavaScripts or standard website controls within your corporate website, for example, some of those can be reused and incorporated into your Siebel applications as well. And we'll see that this shift is more pronounced in recent versions. But again, this evolution started with this release of OpenUI in 2012, which started to show the direction Oracle wanted to take this platform. So how has the product evolved since that introduction to OpenUI? So let's take a look at what's been introduced in Innovation Pack 2016, and then we can also preview some of the items that have been communicated to be coming in IP 2017. With IP 2016, we see Oracle making platform-wide enhancements that continue with the innovations that were introduced with the initial release of OpenUI. So we'll discuss just a few of these platform-wide updates in this session. So being browser agnostic has its benefits, but it also has its challenges from a web-based application perspective. So due to changes in technology across multiple browsers, Oracle in this release pushed a more continued cross-browser support. So NPAPI, which is the Netscape Plugin Application Programming Interface, that's a mouthful, that's been used as a cross-platform plugin architecture that's supported by many of the web browsers for many years. And due to some security concerns recently, browser vendors have announced that they are actually phasing out the use of NPAPI. So to continue to support multiple browsers, and virtually all browsers, Oracle introduced the desktop integration Siebel agent in order to continue to support the specific features that are affected by the NPAPI depreciation. Oracle also added a Microsoft Outlook add-in, which enabled users to drag an email or an email attachment direct from Microsoft Outlook client and drop it directly into a Siebel attachment applet, storing that file or email in the Siebel file system. So they added that, again, sort of usability feature. Next is a pretty significant addition. Oracle introduced a function called usage pattern tracking, UPT. It provides insight into user behavior. Similar to web analytics, it allows several different usage features, such as monitoring how often users are using the Siebel applications, specific screens, views, applets, or business components. You can also monitor how users use a particular feature within the Siebel application. And this type of user tracking, it really helps teams figure out how their users are using the application. Oracle also introduced a standards-based REST APIs for integration, and this allows integration by allowing to expose business objects, business components, and fields, as opposed to needing to create explicit integration objects as it was done in previous versions. So this allows us to, as studies and sites and site activities and documents, those things are defined, even though we're talking about different database tables in the back, we can actually access the business layer and integrate directly to the business objects and components and fields in the application. Oracle also focused on customer experience features as well in this release. There are additional OpenUI themes that allow a much more modern user interface. And also with that, there's a full customer experience design capability, which allows companies to completely customize the look and feel of the application to allow it to adhere to corporate web standards and to make the Siebel application look similar to your corporate website and other web applications. So no longer does Siebel CTMS have to look like Siebel as you're using it. You can actually make it look very, very similar to your corporate website or other web applications. So to give a seamless look through some of the web applications that your users are using. This release also exposes Siebel Calendar as a CalDAV server, which allows both the user and the organization to have what they need, providing integration between the Siebel Calendar and any CalDAV compliant client, including native iOS and Android calendars. So this is particularly important when users today are, again, relying on their smartphones more and more when scheduling activities and meetings and things like that. So this can be completely integrated through that feature. This release also builds more on the simplified search feature, which now allows for dockable results pane. So when you search for an item, it can actually have a results pane that's dockable on the screen. You can have autocomplete suggestions, and then there's plug-and-play search engine support, which will allow customers to build their own custom adapters to integrate with third-party search engines of their choice. So you can actually incorporate a third-party search engine capability within your Siebel application. And the last one that we'll mention in the platform-wide updates is the Office 2016 certification. The Siebel document server is going to be updated to provide support for integration with Office 2016 products like Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. Again, one of the reasons that the product sits on the leaderboard with other CTMS solutions is that Oracle continues to invest into the application to bring more innovative functionality that increases efficiency for clinical operations. Now, let's look at some of the CTMS-specific enhancements that were made in IP 2016 release of Oracle CTMS. First area is around accelerated decision-making via enhanced productivity. While previous versions of the application allowed us to perform many activities at the site management level, this version brings added flexibility to allow for batch processing for sites across the study. So one area is that batch processing of of activities and documents across the site within a study. This allows users at the study level to create these records and select multiple sites to then auto-create documents and activities for, and without having to go down to each individual site. Another common request we have gotten in the past was related to batch payment processing. Typically you get approval to generate payments for all sites. But in the previous application, you actually had the payment generation option at the site level. And now they've included a batch payment generation at the study level to make that much, much easier. Next, in IP 2016, Oracle has added functionality to allow for transfers of subjects from site to site and a running tally of transfers with transfer history. So you can have all of that visibility as to when a subject transferred and where they transferred from or where they transferred to. And next, in this version, you also have the ability to track satellite sites along with regular sites within the application. Another key addition in this version is the ability for planning and tracking clinical training for studies. And then going back to payments, IP 2016 allows support for multiple payees per site and per contract, which also allows for split payments and then automatically incorporates that into the payment generation functionality. So as you set up multiple payees for a particular contract, if you're splitting a payment for a particular visit or a particular activity, when you generate the payment, it will generate the number of payments that are needed to those payees automatically, which is a very nice, nicely done in IP 2016. And in addition to the application functionality for clinical operations, another major part of IP 2016 is the enhanced out-of-the-box integration with Inform to automatically bring in subject and subject visit information from the clinical data management system. And then lastly, with relation to CTMS updates in IP 2016, Oracle has added some basic risk-based monitoring capability in CTMS, which has seen some recent interest across the industry. So with IP 2017 being released this year, we thought we would share at least a few things that are scheduled to be released in this version that would be of some interest to highlight today. Under the category of agile development, let's discuss a scenario that happens quite often. We have a CTMS application that is live, and a developer is working on fixing some bugs or some defects that we found in production. She finishes her development in the dev environment and is getting ready to promote that code to the test or QA system. Meanwhile, the business has then asked for some further changes in the dev environment, which they don't want necessarily included in the bug fix release. So the other developer can't do these additional changes until the first developer's code has been migrated to Val and then ultimately production. Otherwise, his code will also be included in that release. So IP 2017 solves this problem by supporting code branching and allows changes to be previewed by users without it needing to be being included in a distribution package. These and other features really support agile development in ways that Siebel has never done in the past. Next is developer productivity. In the past, when scheduling out these projects, we've had to budget at least a couple of days for each developer to get their development environment set up. The tasks that are included is setting up a developer virtual machine, installing Siebel tools, and installing a dedicated web client, running a database extract, and performing a full database get. We don't have to do that anymore. In IP 2016, the moment that the server is delivered by the IT team, development can actually start. There's no tools to install, no developer web client, no local database. All that is done in a browser-based development environment, and this allows for easy support for multiple clients in a single virtual machine. One thing to note, though, Oracle states that in the initial release, there may still be some specialized tests that need to be done in Siebel tools, but the hope is that they quickly move even those specialized tasks into this web-based composer. And then finally, the last thing that we'll cover today for 2017 is this built-in support for automated testing. So Innovation Pack 2017 will provide abilities to record user scenarios in the user interface and then play it back within the application at any time. This playback will recreate the functional flow in the same manner as a user would interact with the application and then detect any unintended regression behaviors. So the recording of these tests can be stored within the Siebel application and used for validation when required. The result of running these tests would also be stored for analysis. The primary goal of this feature is to significantly lower the cost of application testing and maintenance, and then the complexity of programming UI automation, cost of maintaining tools, tests, and skills are then eliminated. So test automation enables the business users to record these automated scenarios and tests for even for demo and for training purposes, or for regression testing before rolling out releases. And some of the key features here are going to be, again, recording a user scenario. You can start, pause, resume, and stop, and annotate those features while you're recording. You can store and organize those recorded scenarios within the database, and then you can play back the recorded scenarios in a single or batch mode. So these are just a few of the features that are coming in 2017. And again, you can find out additional resources and other features online as well for 2017, but we thought we'd at least highlight a few. So while Oracle has made the application much more flexible and easier to configure and develop specific functionality and easier to deploy, with all of these enhancements, we need to consider the compliance risk. So let's first look at what has evolved. First, we're moving away from back-end custom development. The SRF, which is the compiled full code and configuration, is now going away. We're moving towards an application-level development model where you can make real-time deployment configuration changes via a web-based development environment. And this is similar to how we administer user access and list of values, for example. And this will, of course, make it easier and faster to deploy changes to the application. But with this change, where there's no explicit compile or migration of code or files, it's going to be harder to control those changes. So the system comes with application migration functionality and can help put in control for deploying changes. The functionality consists of setup, configure, plan, and then execute steps, which manage the process. And then the process is fully audit trailed, so you can retain a history of all changes that are implemented in your system. And again, since deployment is so much more flexible, for compliance there needs to be a strong procedure controls to ensure proper approach to deploy these changes and retain a system that is in a validated state. And a few of these procedural controls that we can put in place could be validating that application migration functionality. Since the functionality that deploys the change is part of the application now, we can just fully validate that functionality once, and that way you don't have to validate the process of each time a change is implemented. We can create a standardized change impact assessment, which could assess the risk and impact of each new introduced change to existing functionality. And this also has to consider existing integrations and how changes are going to be impacted there. We would define different change types or categorizations and determine who needs to approve each change. For example, an LOV change versus adding a new field or a new screen, for example, could be different levels. Implementing a consistent change tracking mechanism where you can track the change, its impact, the approvals, and then track deployment. Would be these are some of the procedure controls that we can put in place. Again, since more of the application can be configured via this sort of administration of the system, These process controls will need to be defined clearly to manage these changes and to ensure compliance. And so we're coming up to the last slide here. So with all we've gone through with the information related to these upgrades and functionality, many of you on the call may be on different parts of the journey. So what's next? So if you haven't seen IP 2016 yet, you can request a demo from us at your convenience. We're happy to schedule a time for you. If you already have seen IP 2016 and would like to do an implementation or an upgrade assessment, we can assist with that as well. And this could be a move from on-premises to the cloud, including integrations. It can include data migration or decommissioning of an older system. If you have seen it already and you're not sure if it's right for you, again, we can assist with that sort of assessment and strategic roadmap discussion. And if you have any questions about IP 2017, you can schedule a call and we can provide as much information as we know. And lastly, if you don't have Siebel CTMS or CTMS at all, you can request a demo of the system and an overview, and we can see whether it's right for you and your organization. And you can contact me directly via email, which is on the slide here, and these the slides are going to be provided to you, so you'll have that information that you need to contact us directly. So with that, I want to thank everyone, and I'll pass it back to Eugene just to close us out.
Great, thank you, Param, and thanks for everybody hanging in there. I know we're a little bit over. We do have a bunch of assets available on our website. We have various guides and white papers and webinars that you can just download at your convenience. We also have a couple of upcoming webinars scheduled. You can take a look at Perficient.com and you'll find those there. As a reminder, you'll receive in the next couple of days a recording of this webinar along with a link to the presentation. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining today's webinar. We hope that you found it helpful, and we look forward to having you join future webinars. Thank you so much. Have a great day.